Hello guys and welcome, it is ThatSrb2DUDE here today bringing you yet another Splatoon 2 video. Now today, well literally just today, Professor Nagami has released some patch notes for version 4.7. Now honestly, there's not a lot to talk about with this, but either way I'm going to go through with you guys the patch notes that we have received, and it's gonna be kind of interesting for some of you short-range weapon users, so let's get into things. So, starting off, the Splatter Shot, the 52 gal, and the I'm, they all have received a main power-up buff. Basically, if you are to put on main power-up with these weapons, instead of doing their usual thing that they get, I guess, increased buffs with, they now all have reduced weapon spread while running on the ground. Now, what that basically means, I mean, some of you probably already know. Basically, all these weapons can now become more accurate while just on the ground instead of jumping. Now, of course, with the 52 gal, that's extremely huge because the 52 gal on the ground is extremely inaccurate. So putting on main power up to make this weapon more accurate than usual is a big plus for it. As for the Splatter Shot, obviously that's going to be great. As for the ends up as well, that's going to be, of course, really great, despite the ends up also being already really accurate, but, you know, you're just going to be even more accurate than usual, basically. There's another main power-up performance buff for the Lunar Blaster. I mean, for its explosion, it applies a lot more paint now onto the ground, so a little bit of a plus. The Squeezer gets a buff. It has an ink consumption buff, so for its burst fire mode, it is now 4% more efficient. For the Brella, though, which is something that's pretty notable, the Splatbrella. The Splatbrella has an ink consumption nerf of 15%, which honestly is pretty huge for the Brella, mainly because a lot of people already now put like quite a bit of main saver onto this weapon. And of course, when you're holding out the shield as much as you do with the Brella, of course you're losing out on your ink tank, because it uses up ink when you're, you know, deploying the shield and using it to block people's attacks. So honestly, that's kind of painful for the Brella. I mean, obviously the more conservative Brella users aren't gonna really have too much of an issue with this, but it's definitely gonna make it a little bit harder to really use the weapon without running out of ink for the majority of the time. It's going to be a thing that maybe these types of players are going to have to play a little bit slower to make sure they have ink in their tank to be able to fight against certain situations. I feel like it's going to be also a really interesting thing when, I guess, a Brella user uses their sprinkler. It's going to be a lot harder to really like fight off that, you know, because it's going to be a thing where you want to throw a sprinkler, and it may be a thing where you might have to, you know, just chill for a bit and just wait until your ink tank is actually fully refilled, because, you know, throwing one after a sprinkler with a nerf like that makes it pretty hard to fight after the sprinkler's been thrown. And honestly, that's all for the weapon. Of course, there are a couple sub-weapon changes. As for the suction bomb, you know, its max damage has actually been buffed from 180 to 220, so that's pretty good. But reduced multiplier towards bubbles, bubble blower, and I'm pretty sure this is just because of the max damage being increased, so it's probably not going to even change if that's the case, because if they're reducing the damage towards the bubble blower and also increasing the max damage of the suction bomb, then in my opinion, it's probably just a note just to say, hey, it's not going to do any more damage than it already does. For beacons, if you use sub power up on those things, you know, there's a little bit more of a buff. Just so if you didn't know, if you use sub power up on a beacon, you jump up much faster than usual. Going into specials now, splashdowns do 2.4 times more damage to ballers. Basically, with that case, you're going to completely destroy a baller with one splashdown. And it also does 7.5 times more damage towards Booyah Bomb's shields, or armor, however you want to call it. So in that case, I'm assuming with that amount of more damage, it's going to completely break a Booyah Bomb shield if a user was going to, you know, splash down on someone's Booyah Bomb. And in my honest opinion, like, yeah, it might break the shield, but if a person is smart enough using the Booyah Bomb, what they'll probably do is, like, they'll notice the splashdown being used, and they'll probably throw the Booyah Bomb so they can actually, well, throw it on their feet so they can actually survive the splashdown. So, I mean, I'm not really too sure about that. I mean, of course, it's good for the splashdown to have something like that, especially if a Booyah Bomb user is not aware that there's a splashdown next to them. But you know, but just in my opinion, I feel like it's just a buff that has an easy counter for it. But I don't know, obviously, as you know, we have to wait until things progress, obviously. For Object Shredder, there's now been a 5% increase to the Booyah Bomb ammo, so if you're using Object Shredder with any type of weapon, there's going to be a little bit of an increase, so it's going to be very, very helpful for, I guess, weapons that benefit off Object Shredder. And for last perk, Last Ditch Effort is a perk that I don't normally use. Basically, if the opponents have scored 50 points or slightly more, they'll receive an increase in, I guess, different types of perks that Last Ditch Effort gives. And this is only for the slight effect. If the opponents pass through 30 points or get 30 points, then Last Ditch Effort will, you know, go into its maximum performance. And this is something that we already knew, but now it's, I guess, the 50 points thing is like a thing where it charges up your, you know, whichever perks that you're going to get by a slight margin. Which honestly is very good for Last Ditch Effort, because now it will give a little bit more reason for people to use it or just have, you know, to play around with. Like, I can definitely see, like, on certain maps where it's pretty easy to get, like, the first 50 points or anything like that, that maybe some people might actually try to take advantage of using Last Ditch Effort just to get the extra perk quote. So honestly, that's a really good buff for Last Ditch Effort, and you know, I won't be surprised if we actually see a little bit of an increase for maps that usually do get to 50 pretty easily. And lastly, we have the special points being changed, and you know, buffs and nerfs and all that. And interestingly enough, the NZAP has been changed from 210 to 200. This is actually an armor weapon that has not been used for quite some time. And seeing it going back to 200 kind of puts my eye on it like, this might be something that a lot of people might try to pick up again due to, I guess, armor, you know, being more of an armor spam. It could already spam armor pretty well with 210, but bringing it down to 200 is pretty interesting to me. The Zap 89 has been changed from 190 to 180, so that's going to be really helpful again. The End Parry Dualies has actually been changed to 220 to 210, so inkjets are going to be a lot easier to get with the End Parries again. But, I mean, in this meta that we're in right now, of course, inkjet's not going to be... Well, it's not the strongest thing in the world, as some say, due to, I guess, how many things that kind of counter inkjets now these days. But definitely really helpful for the End Parry, because it was kind of a thing, again, where it was extremely hard to even get its specials. So, and then we got some nerfed specials. We got the Aerospray RG and PG being nerfed 170 to 180 and 180 to 190, so pretty interesting. The mini Splatling, well deserved, 190 to 210 special points. I mean, the mini Splatling used to like blast out tensor missiles every couple seconds, so this being a thing was very much needed, because there was a lot of games where I had seen a mini Splatling getting like 11 tensor missiles or 14, 15 tensor missiles a game, and it's just like, that's just ridiculous. So really well deserved nerf for the mini. The remix Splatling 180 to 190, well deserved, and the Kensa Undercover Brella also 180 to 190, so that's actually pretty interesting for that. Kind of a long time waiting, because that weapon in particular also farms armor like crazy at times, because like even with no special charge up, like you can get like an armor every single 10 seconds when using this weapon. Pretty interesting, and I feel like honestly, they probably don't want to change it too much, mainly because the weapon itself is very, very weak. You kind of just play off it for the armor and the torpedo that it has, so... And of course the shield capabilities that, you know, it can also do. So killing, this weapon is not great for killing at all. So definitely I can see why they don't try to nerf this weapon too much to the ground, because they also want to make it pretty good in general. But honestly, that is pretty much all that we have for the patch notes. Patch 4.7 kind of came out of nowhere, honestly, just right after Splatfest. Of course, the most interesting things are for the short-to-range weapons like the NZAP 52 Gal and Splatter Shot, as now they all are much more accurate weapons when applying main power-up, just when they're running on the ground. So it's definitely going to be super, super helpful for all those types of weapons. Brella, I don't feel like it's going to be a thing where Brella, or the Splat Brella in particular, it's just going to fall out of like the meta that we're in right now. Definitely feel like it's going to be harder to use due to that ink consumption nerf. But other than that, that's all we really have for this. I mean, there's not really too much. I mean, the splashdown buffs is pretty good for ballers, but you know, they broke them pretty fast anyway. And for VR Bomb, then it doesn't really matter. I mean, it's definitely nice to have too, but you know, smart VR Bomb users can be pretty interesting. But yeah, honestly, this is pretty much all we have for this patch. Like, I don't really have anything else to say. I'm 50-50 on doing a patch comparison for this, mainly because there isn't really too much to really talk about, but if I do, then you'll see it very, very shortly. But with all that being said, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please, if you did, please like, favorite, comment, and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Follow me on Twitter and Twitch, both in the description below. Do it for both if you're feeling generous. Make sure to hit the bell notification button to make sure to let you know whenever I do stream and whenever I do upload a video. And also consider joining my public Discord server where you can go ahead and chat to me and my community and all that type of stuff. So pretty much with all that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I shall see you guys in a future one.